I stayed up till 4 in the morning trying to think of a punchline to begin this video with, and I had nothing. Till I did some retail therapy on my phone, and then a thought popped into my head. Do you remember when the original Nano was launched? Everybody thought it was the mobility solution to change the country. Well, changed the country since the advent of the original mobility solutions, the Maruti 800 and that Hero Honda CD100 SS. But it wasn't. It became a bit of a fashion accessory for the first few months. Just like the Air Force One went from a normal shoe to a fashion accessory, you just can't have a fashion faux pas with. And I think we're about to have one of those moments again in the automotive world, because I think that everybody thinks that the MG Comet is the mobility solution that we've all been eagerly waiting for. But I think it isn't. I think this is about to be one of the hottest fashion accessories in India, well, since the advent, of course, of that green number plate. Confused? Now, while it fully depends on what this fully loaded variant will finally cost, the starting price for the MG Comet, that's just 7,98,000 rupees. That's nothing. Top spec, we think this should be about 10.5 or 11 at best. And the MG Comet has one big difference as compared to any other small car that has ever been launched in India. Now, this thing does not feel like it was built to a cause, especially when you get up close and personal. There are things that exude a bit of quality. Look, I'm not going to touch and feel panels on the car. There are little bits and pieces that show that there are things that are future proof. Like, for example, it does have a provision for a front parking camera, but doesn't have a front parking camera. And of course, I'm sure that it has some sort of provision for future ADAS too. Now, this variant doesn't have this, because obviously MG had to curtail or cut some of the features to make sure that the pricing at launch isn't absurd, so that we don't go all bonkers at it. But it's future proofed, and that's a good thing. As I said, not built to a cost. Well, these variants might be built to a cost, but the car's not built to a cost. You sort of understand what I'm trying to say, right? Come on, you do, right? A Maruti 800, a Tata Nano and an MG Comet walk into a bar. What do they have in common? 12-inch wheels. 12s. Wait a second. You know what I've been saying, right? Not built to a cost. All you have to do when you actually find yourself near one of these is open the door and feel the weight, and you'll know exactly what I am talking about. This feels well built, like properly well built. And remember, this isn't plastic like the E2O was. Okay, let's just get this completely out of the way, okay? You're either gonna like the way the Comet looks or you're gonna hate the way it looks. There is no middle ground in this. It's gonna be a polarizing car. That's just what it is gonna be. Now, in terms of design bits, there are some bits that are actually really cool, like the way the sort of mirror flows in, and of course the difference in greenhouse, the glass structure. I think that's very interesting. But overall, your opinion on design and my opinion on design doesn't have to match. Now, if I had to give an opinion, I personally do not like tall boy designs in general. And it's not just now, it's been forever, since the time the Santro or the Wagoner came about. I've never been a big fan of that sort of design language, that boxy sort of design language. But again, you might like it, I might not. And that's okay, because sometimes what you do need to sort of stir up the public is a polarizing opinion. If I did have to give an opinion though, like an outright opinion, I mean, it is interesting, and I find it interesting, and I would look at it twice if it passed by. But maybe it's just not my cup of tea in terms of overall design. So let's divide this into sort of multiple parts, right? Let's talk about the way the interior feels first. Now, the big screen's nice. The infotainment system is really nice, just in general, really high quality. There's no complaints there whatsoever. As I mentioned earlier, definitely doesn't feel like it's built on a budget or built to a cost. Feels more premium, feels more mature, and look, it's not an entry-level hatchback, so we can forget that notion in any case. Couple of negatives though. I mean, in terms of like a place to keep my phone, there just isn't one. And I know it has wireless CarPlay, I can put it in my pocket, but I prefer the thing charging on like a cable, and there's just no place to put the phone. I'm putting it literally tucked between the handbrake and the seat, which is a problem because I know it's going to slip in and fall in somewhere and probably damage itself eventually. I can't seem to get my driving position right for some reason. It's maybe because I have feet that are gigantic, and of course because it has no dead pedal, I'm sort of wondering what to do with my left foot all the time. It's like just like there, and then of course because there's no center console and there's no like center partitioning, it's just like hanging around and chilling, and like I don't know what to do with it. It's just like there. Otherwise, I mean, everything else is really high quality. The headliner feels great, the dashboard feels great. Seats in general, the butt might be a little bit smaller, but in general it's nice and comfortable. Again, good quality stuff. That's what's really, really important. And in terms of overall space, I got into the rear seats. There is space. I mean, would I want to be there all the time? Probably not, but it's sort of airy as well. There is enough space. Okay, part 2. Let's talk about the way it drives. But before we actually get into the way it drives, let me give you like a whole dump of all the facts and figures, because honestly, there are a bunch to go through. A 17.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack powers this little tyke, and if you need to charge it from empty, it's gonna take you about 5 to 7 hours. Motor is a tiny 42 horsepower one with 110 Newton meters of torque. But is all this gonna be enough? Okay, now that we're done with that, let me actually tell you how this thing drives. Now, it's not as fast as, say, MG ZS EV or a Nexon EV Max, or you know what I'm getting at, right? But is it as quick as, say, a Tiago EV? Yes, it is. I think this is even quicker. In fact, I'd say this is quick enough, or more than quick enough, in an urban setting, because what this does is, when you do get your foot flat on that throttle pedal, all those little gaps you find in traffic, you can dart through them. And because it is so tiny, it's literally like iPhone Max size almost. You can just get through those gaps like really easily. The smaller gaps, you can dart in and out of traffic reasonably well. The problem with darting in and out of traffic reasonably well is that range figure, that's 230 kilometers, yeah, that sort of tends to go down south very quickly. Now, I would still say that from how we've been driving today with the AC on and all the infotainment on and driving like a normal car, I would still think late hundreds, so like 170, 180, maybe a little bit more of a range is what realistically this will get. And that honestly, as an urban tool for moving around, is fantastic, isn't it? It's more than enough. I mean, how much more range do you need in a city? The one big problem in this car though, it doesn't have fast charging. And considering the fact that you now have access to fast charge infrastructure in India, and you won't have fast charge architecture in this car, yeah, that's a problem. By the way, and I know this probably is completely immaterial, this thing is rear wheel drive, and if you do sort of throw it into a corner at like 30 kilometers an hour and floor it, it actually spins up one of those rear wheels, which is a little hilarious. But I think if you get a really slippery surface, you could actually put this into like a proper opposite lock style slide, which would be really, really funny to see, like hilarious to see. Rear wheel drive or not, there is something special about the Comet that you just cannot deny. Hate it. Hate it by all means if you want to. Hate it for the way it looks, hate it for geopolitical reasons, but it demands attention. And that is important because at the end of the day, it's not just price or gimmick that makes a good car. It is what it is as a product. And as a product, the Comet is great. In fact, As a small mobility tool, this is just cool.